Well, guys, it's been a year since my injury, and I'd like to talk about financials, how it's affected me, set me back. But I've also managed to jump ahead a bit, so I think I've kind of undone how far back I've been. So I finally finished at the beginning of last month the copper trim repair on this building, and man, everything was like a crescendo. Been doing sewer line work, welding work, all sorts of work. I've actually been doing what I had planned to do this year, but that hand injury on the table saw last year, well, it set me back with my confidence. It set me back with all sorts of stuff. Whenever I finished this, and we took the scissor lift back, well, then I had a whole bunch of product reviews to do because, well, I'm doing this on a really low budget, and I have a lot of people giving me things, but I also take advantage of companies to make it work. I plan to get up there someday and fix those panels and maybe make a new window. So in regards to confidence, well, I had plans to start a bunch of stuff in 2024, and getting injured and losing about $1,000 and having to do all this stuff, it kind of set me back. And then summer hit, and usually whenever summer hits, it's a little too hot to do work, but whenever we got autumn, I was finally able to start doing a whole bunch of stuff. And boy, have I been doing stuff. Like we just had on Lansdowne Avenue, the coffee shop, that building, the sewer line just basically exploded. Not really. It just got really clogged almost in the street. And they kept calling experts in, and I kept coming over, getting called in. And finally I got a 100-foot pipe snake, or a pipe camera. And turns out the issue is way bigger. So that was like an entire week of my time. And I've been doing so much repairs because things are moving around. The other building, there's stuff that hasn't been finished in like 5 years, so I'm finally getting through all that. I'm getting through a lot of things. And then I also reorganized the workshop because, well, I made that pottery studio for the owners of the buildings. And up until now, my only work area was from here to here. And I expanded past that quite a bit. Now, I have had a few people mention to me, oh, your workshop's getting so cluttered. Yeah, but I do so many things. And also, this stuff isn't mine. But like all the mortar work, all the pressure washing. Well, some of the stuff isn't mine, actually. But I need the table saw for work. And, I'm always having to do so much stuff. And then people are saying that I'm getting taken advantage of. But, well, again, no. Because one of the best things you can do when you're trying to make ends meet is to build those connections with people. Sure, I could charge more, and I plan to in the future. But like right now, instead of charging a bunch of money, I only work with people that actually understand respect. But I'm working with people that they respect me a lot, and I don't charge them very much at the moment. And they give me this workshop for free, and I think they're even going to give me the top floor of the other building for free to be my lab. Some of this lab equipment's going to go in there. Make some diffusion pumps, do some high vacuum experiments. And so it's one of those things where take less payment for building reputation and also getting this workshop rent free. And now the onus is on me to make money with it, which I do, usually via Craigslist. Some people ask me, like, what are some of the best tips? Because I live on just about $10,000 a year. And, well, the best tip is whenever you get, like, a big job that pays really well, Like I've started charging a lot for sewer work, like $80 an hour. I can't stand sewer work, so I'm not gonna do my normal $20 an hour. It's gonna be $80 an hour. Well, whenever you get a big payday of like $300 or $400, I know it's not big for some people, but for me it is. Don't celebrate by spending money. Gotta keep hunkering down. Celebrate by going for a walk in the park. You know? Otherwise, you're just gonna spend money to earn money. And that doesn't make any sense. So this also kind of coincides with the time where I haven't been able to be in the workshop for a long time. Not to like clean up and stuff. I've just been running through, grabbing drain augers, grabbing chisels, throwing stuff in here. So it's nice to finally have a moment where I'm not grabbing a chainsaw or fixing appliances. Now, fixing appliances, that's pretty fun. But, yeah. I'd say for the majority of the year, getting hurt. Now, if I'm going to speak about the injury itself, the injury itself doesn't look so bad now. A little tingly. Fingernails a little shorter. I didn't lose the tip. I did get this tip all sliced up. What's interesting, though, is I used to have a burn mark on here from when I was a kid. Well, I actually got my fingerprint back. So I guess maybe if you mess up your finger enough, you get the fingerprint back, so it's not like a little bald spot where you burnt it. It's kind of interesting. But this finger, oof, it got destroyed. But thankfully, no pieces went missing. This one, the saw blade went in and just poked into the bone through the fingernail. Left this intact. It was all fine. Like, it's all the original. It was just an odd poke by the table saw. The biggest issue is just that, well, kind of everything happened, really. I wanted to switch to being a Pennsylvania resident, and I switched, and then I learned the hospital just refused to send the information to my insurance. So I was like, oh, fine. And I don't want to be stuck with the $6,000 bill. I only have $3,000 in savings. And by the way, I'm back up to $3,000 in savings. And so that feels a little bit better. Now my limit was $4,000, but things happen. And I still have the $10,000 in CDs. So every month we get about $35 for extra grocery money, because otherwise we'll just be eating spaghetti every meal. And that sucks. That really sucks. I'm sick and tired of eating spaghetti every meal. We ate that so much as a kid. And so that extra $30 allows us to get like chicken patties or bologna or maybe some little bit nicer bread from the day-old section. And the confidence issue. Well, I don't like really loud tools like table saws. I really don't. And see, it wasn't like a complacency issue. It's just that being forced to do everything. There's a lot of things where I'm just like, I'll just use my hand saw now. But I also wouldn't allow myself to buy the tools I needed because I was really battening down the hatches a little too much. So I didn't let myself get that little black Weaver fence thing, sled, whatever it's called. And I should have gotten that. I tried making my own, but that led to this issue. And so I've allowed myself to get the tools that I really need. Like, for instance, I did that review of that Hovsco scooter, and then I used the money. I sold it for only like $80 to a friend. But, I really want to get people into e-bikes and stuff like that. And our friend Devaney, she really wanted to get into it, but an e-bike was a little too daunting. So I sold that to her, and I used that money to buy myself a surplus Makita fan jacket. And that Makita fan jacket has been the opposite of the table saw injury, because I saved myself from heat stroke probably twice. Now, if I had gotten it once this year, I wouldn't have gotten the second time. I wouldn't have been out and about working. But that fan jacket saved me from my yearly heat stroke, because it's like every year I have to work. And I reach that point in summer where I get heat stroke. And then it's like all the dominoes fall. But that $110 Makita jacket, that fan jacket, kept me from getting heat stroke. It's just like, it's not comfortable most of the time, but it just keeps me from having that moment where it's like, wow, I can't see. I can barely feel, but I'm tingly. And I don't have any balance. I think I'm going to pass out. I better get somewhere where it's not so hot. And I can have that at 92 degrees now, 88 degrees now. Easy. So, in many ways, me finally taking the time to buy the tool I needed, the fan jacket, saved me. Especially when I was doing HVAC work, because, you're in a crawl space, and the air conditioner is busted, so it's super hot. And definitely need that. I'll probably make more videos in the future. Maybe on my second channel, We're Noah Leonhardt. I still have the old name on that. And how about that? We'll do some more videos on that channel. And I'll talk about more pinpointed things, because maybe I'll go over how it affected how I use my tools, my ambition, things like that. I had hoped to maybe start like a bit of a hardware store kind of thing. And I actually have moved towards that quite a bit. I've kind of turned the workshop into that. I'm slowly turning it into that. Now I keep having to just fully reorganize things, because these big jobs keep landing in my lap. And to me, a $300 job is a big job. It's just a time for reflection and a time to think. I really wish I could get back up to $4,000 in savings. I really don't want to throw this away and have to go work at some restaurant or something like that. See, the thing is, my resume, when I actually write it out, it's such a weird resume. Sure, I worked at Apple, worked at a couple things that I don't really want to mention. I'd mention them on my resume, because they'd be like, oh, interesting. But I don't technically have a high school diploma, and I don't have the stuff that people normally have. So most corporations would be like, oh, well, you don't have that. Well, they're the kind of people that would overlook an expert who created the field just because they didn't have the certification of the field they created. We're kind of in that right now with the credential creep. And not to say I'm that smart or anything, but I am very skilled when it comes to hands-on things. Rapid prototyping is the thing I can do. I'm not great at programming, but man, I can just make physical things. I can just cobble stuff together really quickly. I can do 3D modeling too. But there's a lacking of places that do real work, and that's why I've pushed myself to doing real work instead of just making videos, because this is the difference between me here and the me in Illinois. Is here, this is the results of real work. I have done so much stuff. So much. I've done so much stuff that I'm actually fine with this. I'm going to clean it up. But it's like this because, man, I've been having to do so much stuff. I helped put together a supercomputer, and then the lab that we were cleaning out to do that, they gave us a bunch of lab equipment. And I was like, okay, fine. That's a good reward. And then I'm going to get to tear that stuff apart and maybe make some vacuum fun stuff. And, getting to put together computer systems is pretty cool. And I even have a few pieces that I've collected, like this Viver water chiller, which that's going to be for the diffusion pump, for the sciencey stuff. But this area is always going to be just like grinding, and well, I don't grind in here, I grind outside. This is always going to be for building things, and then this stuff's going to be moved to a different building as I build out my equipment. This is going to be where I build the equipment, and then the other place is where it's going to be once I clean it up and get it working and finalized, and so it can be like a clean room environment. I've had some struggles getting used to living in apartment life with Thais. Now, Thais is my best friend ever. It's funny, when I say best friend, people are like, "Oh, when are you going to stop living with your best friend and get like a relationship?" And it's like, that's what I'm talking about. It just happens to be that she's my best friend too. Living with her is great. It's just being next to a busy road, always hearing that commotion, having to pay rent. The rent is like 3/4 of our income, and it doesn't leave a whole lot else for anything else. Feel really squeezed, and it just keeps going up every year. $50, $45, $40 every year. Really, every year we're gonna lose the place after like 5 or 6 years. Like, my income hasn't gone up, it goes down. So I'll start cashing in on some of my connections I've made as I run out of ways to expand on my own behalf. Because the idea would be I would love to still keep doing cheap work for people and be that really nice person that, because a lot of people can't afford it. Some of my customers can, but it'd be nice to be able to do that, to keep that up, and then make up the rest of it with, maybe I'll sell a product or something. I was just checking to make sure I was still recording, because otherwise I'd be very cross. And so right now I'm finally able to sit down. And I've been playing Ocarina of Time with Thais. We've been enjoying that a lot. And since I've been working really hard lately, we are rewarding ourselves a little bit. Like, she's cooking more often because we can actually afford the ingredients. Whenever you're poor, you can only afford stuff that's already pre-made, like spaghetti and cans of chili and stuff like that. But once you make a little bit more, well, then you can start buying tortellini and spinach and making soup and all that kind of stuff. And yeah. Well, that was a really chaotic video. I feel bad for how chaotic this video is, because I wish it wasn't that chaotic, but it's a time that's hard to talk about. But it's been a year, and about 3 or 4 months ago, since it started cooling down, I've actually been able to make back that year that I lost. And I feel like, you know what? I'm doing better. I feel really stressed. Like, man, I feel sick almost. But I have so much to be happy about, and I'm managing that stress. By default, there's a lot of people around here, especially a lot of white boomers, that they don't understand. You can be depressed and still smiling. Now, the black boomers in the area, they understand going through hardship. So I'll make a joke with a lot of them, and they'll be like, well, always got to push. But I've actually noticed that disparity where there's a certain people that they're very well off, and I've never really dealt with rich people before. And they're like, what do you mean you're upset? You're smiling, aren't you? Does that mean you're having a non-depressed day? It's like, no, it means I'm pushing through it. It means I'm making the best of it I can. Do you not have to do that or something? Like, gosh. And usually that's one of those things where it's like, Stepford Wives or whatever, where they hide it so much that they don't even want to express it. They know that you have to make the best of it. and it's like they isolate themselves. But yet, as soon as anybody brings it up, they have to keep up appearances and be like, "What? You're smiling, aren't you? How can you be depressed?" And it's like, what? Man, that's like almost like you're lying to yourself and lying to others. Really interesting to see how different people from different backgrounds handle different things, especially out here where there's a lot of rich people. And they do a lot of things where it's like, wow, you've actually gone through your life where that wasn't an issue for you? That is fascinating. That feels like fantasy. Well, that's pretty much it. Just to talk about our life, the workshop, and I hope that maybe in the future I can have a little bit better updates about things. But I'm getting a lot of work done. That's got to count for something. I'm getting so much work done that even in the future, if I were to somehow have a real big issue, I could probably ask people like, hey, I did a lot of work for you 2 years ago, and then I don't know, lost my leg or something. Not that it had to be amputated, I just lost it. I'm joking. And I'll be like, well, could you send me a little extra money or something like that? I hate to do that, though. I want to keep building up. But that's always the part of it, though, whenever you develop and curate those connections. Well, that's pretty much it. I'm getting through it, and Thais is there for me every step of the way. She's great. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching. Happy healing for your injuries and mistakes. See ya.